Has anyone taught you how to trust yourself? So, not how to trust the church, your family, your loved ones, how to trust your therapist, um, really how to trust you, yourself. So, I don't remember ever being asked this question. I wasn't taught to trust my own intuition. I was taught to, pray about it, pray harder, put my faith in God. If I tried and had an open mind, if I was obedient, if I did everything right, then maybe I'd finally feel at peace. And I feel peace when I'm with the Lord and I trust the Lord. Instead, I started at depression, in high school, 14 years old. I had anxiety since a kid, but I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know it was anxiety. And then in grad school, I started getting panic attacks. And so eventually, all these fears I realized were really connected to my upbringing. It was connected to the Mormon church. And I just didn't realize the impact that these ingrained beliefs that were taught to me were still impacting me. So for years, I thought they were just separate problems. Something was wrong with me. I'm defective. I thought, it wasn't much later that I realized that no one had ever taught me to trust myself, to really see that that's a value to have. The importance to have that internal locus of control of where um, I'm responsible for myself and not just hand it over to God. So, learning this became one of the really most important things of my healing. So, for years, I thought I was a problem, and really, those teachings were the problem. So, I was asking the wrong questions. Maybe you wondered why life is just harder for you than it seems for, everyone else, or you wondered why, still feeling anxious even though you left the church. Maybe, you're you're still replaying conversations in your head that you had at like 7 with a church member. You're second guessing every decision you make, and you're so concerned about disappointing people, and you still feel guilty for setting boundaries. I mean, I left 20 years ago, and it took me a long time to just let that go, to let the guilt go. Anxiety, I thought, just came out of nowhere. The depression was simply, part of me. Like, depression just felt comfortable. It's what I knew. And I thought I could just get better and then finally I'd be okay. So there's a book I, with Oprah, and I think, is it Dr. Bruce Perry? They co-authored a book, What Happened to Me, and I just think that's a fantastic book to read, and just to really start reframing things and taking the shame out of mental health. So it's helped me move from shame to unconditional love towards myself. So depression showed up long before I left the Mormon church. I was struggling with depression when I was about 14 years old. I dropped out my junior year of high school. At the time, I didn't really understand it. Family was really dysfunctional, and my brother, that's just 1 year older than me, in and out of drug rehabs. And it's like, he got better, he got out of rehab and was doing well, and so it was my turn in the family unit to go downhill. And at the time, I didn't understand the roles and the dysfunction of alcoholic homes. So I couldn't really explain. I couldn't pinpoint what was going on. I was handed Zoloft and said, "Good luck." Um, I just knew it was really, really heavy, And then anxiety kind of kept creeping in, which I really didn't understand. What I did know was that um, when I was drinking, the last 5 years of drinking, I would go to work, leave work, and just drink, and I just felt so much better because it just calmed my nerves, right? So I definitely feel like that. I mean, alcohol self medicates for anxiety. Graduate school was really tough for me. I uh, I didn't I didn't know the impact my family of origin had on me growing up. So the first class of grad school, it's family of origin class, and the first paper is writing about your family of origin. And so I was like, yeah, this, and I was able to like say all the triangulations and dysfunction and um, able to identify all that. And then the second paper was about unfinished business. And that's when it just clicked that, oh, wow, I am dysfunctional, just like my family, right? And I'm using alcohol to mask, to deal with my attachment injuries that I had growing up. And part of that is because growing up Mormon, the Mormon faith embraces conditional love. So when you are obedient and you follow the church teachings, then you're accepted and you're loved. And when you veer off of that, you're rejected. And that's how I felt. I had that fear when I was very young. I was 4 years old when my parents and the whole family trip, we drove up to Idaho. And I was the youngest out of six children. And we went there for a family reunion. And my two oldest sisters are 16 and 14, and they were rebellious and not following what good Mormon girls are supposed to do. And my parents left them in Idaho. And we drove back to New Orleans with only four kids. And so I didn't really know what was going on. I just had the feeling of if I don't follow what the church says to do, I'm out of the family. My panic attacks didn't start when I left the Mormon church. They started in grad school. They started when I started really diving into this stuff, these traumas that I experienced growing up. That I would I went to school in Seattle, and I would get on I-5 to go up north to my house, and I would just start bawling and going through all the emotional um, toll that the classes were taking on me. And I was drinking way too much and working, and I was like, well, I'm gonna quit my job so I can go to school full time, which really meant I'm gonna drink full time and go to school. And so I just barely made it. And when I quit my job, it was like I was so used to being just busy where I went to school, I went to work, I went to school, I stayed up till 2 o'clock in the morning writing a paper, and then I would slam a few drinks to go to bed. And that was just kind of my life. And so when I took away work, my life kind of fell apart, and I had just these extreme panic attacks where it was like I stopped driving in my car. I started taking the bus, and then I started having panic attacks on the bus. And then I would just like shake for an hour. going, taking the bus from Everett to Seattle. It was a nightmare. And somehow I got through it. Uh, but it was a good 10 years of not driving on the freeway. My phobia just took over and my world just got really, really small. So that wasn't when I left, the Mormon church. This was, 20 years later. So grad school, I thought I was there to help other people. Instead, I really started discovering things about myself, how to trust myself. And when I did that, uh, I crumbled. And that's okay. That's how I learn. That's how I grow. Um, and when I left grad school, I actually got sober a few months after I finished school. And during that time, I was like, I cannot do therapy with clients. So I moved into kind of like more of a case management role where I wouldn't have to take on I just couldn't be present with clients when I was going through my own stuff. Um, and that was definitely like an avenue in my career that I'm so glad I did. And it's opened up my doors where today I have my own business. So there's a silver lining to it. Looking back, I was finally beginning to see things that I spent years trying not to see, things that I was covering up with drugs and alcohol. So it felt really terrifying to look at myself, honestly. And because I started asking deeper questions, I didn't stop. I kept sifting through and peeling off that onion, the layers of the onion, and asking my family questions and my siblings and my mother, and questioning faith and questioning who I am and how do I trust myself. Everything I thought was certain was just all up in the air. And it's uncomfortable. It's anxiety provoking. I spent my entire life trying to people please or fawning. I would just say whatever you to appease, people to get them out of your face and then go do what I want to do. Um, so even after leaving the Mormon church, things still affect me, and it took many years of not being triggered when I walk past a church building, when I hear a church theme, when I hear conversations about worthiness, when I hear these trigger words over and over again. I would get visceral reactions in my body and I didn't know why, and now I do. Um, there was just a disconnect where it's like my brain, I knew I don't believe this anymore, and yet the anxiety, my whole body was just taken over. My nervous system was just out of whack. So it was just time to do some body work. So the realization that be kind to myself, so much give myself self-compassion that I can be wrong and that's okay. And it hit me that I can give myself unconditional love, that I can reparent myself, that I'm not going to change the way my parents believe. I mean, they truly believe this Mormon doctrine. Um, and okay. I'm saddened that I don't receive the unconditional love, and then just accepting that they are unable to do that. So what aligns with my values? So no one ever really taught me, hey, what are your values? I was taught what the church wants, what the prophet believes, what the apostles believe, what God wants. No, no, no. What aligns with me? So this is such a great opportunity to learn about myself, to trust myself. Healing isn't about learning a new set of rules. It's not finding a guru, a new authority, another person to tell you what to do. It's learning, it's been learning about myself, finding answers within myself. I don't need outside influences telling me how to think, what to wear, making my decisions for me. When I make a decision, it comes from the belief of, hey, does this align with my values? What are my values? Is this bringing me towards peace? Is this bringing me towards love in this community and building up this community? Or am I doing something because somebody told me to do it? If you're watching this and you spent years doubting yourself, it's okay. Questioning yourself, learning about yourself. Um, it's a process. It's a healing process. And wondering if everyone else seems to know what they're doing, and you're like, I don't know. This is for you. This is where we can grow together. You don't have a character flaw. We're just reprogramming what we had been taught as young children, and we were never taught how to trust ourselves. So we're going to reparent ourselves, and we're going to do that by giving ourselves unconditional love. So not by becoming somebody new, but finally giving yourself the permission to have a voice. Hope this resonated with you, and hope that you will join me in the next video. I'm going to talk about how guilt can still show up even after leaving the church, especially when we are still dealing with people, loved ones in a faith that we have left.